John Hosford, and I have an interest in double-barreled shotguns. I work on them, I collect them. In the process of doing so, I've learned many things, mostly from Kirby Hoyt from Vintage Doubles, who got me interested in them to begin with. Buying older shotguns, it's very important to know what you're buying. And Kirby has always stressed knowing what the barrel dimensions are, wall thicknesses, condition of the gun. Most people can analyze guns fairly easily and determine what is right and what is wrong with them. One thing that's impossible to tell by looking is how thick are the barrel walls. In the process of dealing with guns, I've started doing barrel work and began to realize that it was very important to know what the barrel wall thicknesses were. There are gauges out there that will measure it, but I didn't like the portability of them because I like to use them at gun shows when buying guns. So I developed my own gauge for doing barrel wall thicknesses, and this is it, and I will describe to you how it is used. The gauge comes with a stand which you can clamp to the edge of a table, which will hold the barrels in place while you're measuring them. It's very simple to assemble. Will clamp to most tables, particularly designed to clamp to the edge of a catering table used at most gun shows. If you put the clamp on, snug it lightly. It's not important to get it extremely tight. Often it's nice to be able to rotate the barrel support rod. It is designed to take 410, 28 gauge, 20 gauge, 16 gauge, 12 gauge, and 10 gauge, which should cover most of the shotguns that you might be interested in buying. The gauge itself has two options. One is with two measuring rods. One is with just one measuring rod. The one measuring rod gauge will do 20 gauge through 4 bore. With this optional rod you can do 28 and 410. And I will describe how to change the gauge rods out. I will show how we use the gauge. I have two guns here. One is a side lock Belgian 12 gauge in what appears to be fairly nice condition. Take the fore end off, remove the barrels, slide them onto the support rod. They will not necessarily stay in whatever position you rotate them with, and sometimes it's necessary to use your left hand to hold them in the position that you want for measuring. With the barrels supported, you support the gauge, you can retract the finger or the plunger, get it into the barrels, you twist the barrels with the other hand, and then as you, with only your right finger in the ring, run the gauge in and out, and the numbers you're reading will be the exact barrel wall thickness. Here I have found a pit, and I can't tell exactly how deep it is, but I can tell that it is at least 3 thousandths deep. The barrel walls on this point get thicker up near the chokes and then reduce down to just under 20 thousandths, 18 thousandths. These barrels are not safe to shoot. Now we're down to 15 thousandths. The outward appearance of barrels is really no indication of what the thickness on them are. Here we are at 18 thousandths. Here we have a pit. I'll find it again. It's a very small pit, but we're down to 13 thousandths. The next set of barrels I'll show you come off of a very, very old hammer gun. By all indications, looking at the outside of them, you would consider them to be junk. They're old Damascus barrels. They're rusty on the outside. The bores are very slightly rusted on the inside. But these barrels will clean up and be decent barrels. Here we retract the plunger, slide it in, support the gauge only with your one finger, and here we have barrels that are exceeding 30 thousandths. But they have some pits in them as well. They have pits of almost 4 thousandths deep there. That pit will probably largely clean out. You notice the needle jumping. It is jumping because there is some roughness inside the barrels. I'll next measure a set of very clean barrels and you'll see that the needle will ride very smoothly. This is a set of Damascus barrels that have very nice bores, and you can see the needle is running very smoothly. It gets thicker as the barrel goes down the barrel, gets to your thinnest point, about 8-10 inches from the muzzle, and then proceeds to get thicker again. These barrels are in absolutely wonderful condition, and you can see the gauge is running very smoothly as it goes through them.